The brilliant crystal lights from the ceiling shimmered across the glass tabletops and the elegant evening gowns. Tonight, La Lumière was filled with soft laughter, the gentle clinking of wine glasses, and the smug satisfaction glowing in every glance. The glass doors swung open. A tall man entered, wearing a simple gray t-shirt and loose-fitting sweatpants. Having seen many miles, his worn-out sneakers squeaked softly with each step. He did not fit the image La Lumière was used to. Anna, the head waitress with neatly tied-up hair, a perfectly tailored black suit, and deep red lips, glanced at him from behind the reception counter. Her eyes raised in disdain. No need to ask. She had already decided. Someone like this? Not a chance. Jackie approached the counter with a polite smile. His voice was deep and calm. "Good evening. I'd like to request a table if any are available." Anna smirked, not attempting to hide the mockery in her voice. "Good evening, but this is a fine dining restaurant. Are you sure you want to dine here?" The question was loud enough for a few nearby diners to turn their heads. Curious glances followed. A few suppressed chuckles echoed from afar. Jackie wasn't fazed. He nodded. "Yes, I'd like to try the experience here." Anna hesitated for a moment at his composure. Then she curled her lips. "Very well. I'll find you a suitable spot." She turned away, her every step dripping with reluctance. Instead of leading Jackie to the well-lit, meticulously served central dining area, she veered left, toward the kitchen, where the lighting was dim, and the clatter of pots and pans rang steadily. "This table should match your style," Anna said, her voice honeyed, but her eyes filled with ridicule. She dropped the menu onto the table with a deliberate thud, then turned away without waiting for a response. Jackie sat down, his gaze calmly sweeping the room. He said nothing, showed no reaction, and showed no sign of being offended. But something had begun. A storm in the disguise of silence. Anna turned her back, the sharp rhythm of her heels tapping quickly against the wooden floor, as if she had just shaken off an eyesore. In her mind, Jackie was merely a misplaced guest, not worthy of the same treatment as the refined diners, murmuring around the center tables. She attended the table next to his, where a wealthy couple was sipping red wine, with a warm smile, gracefully pouring their drinks, her words gliding like a practiced performer. But as she passed Jackie's table, Anna deliberately avoided eye contact. No menu questions, no water, as if he didn't exist. After a while, Jackie gently raised his hand to signal for service. Anna walked over, eyes filled with reluctance, tapping the menu lightly on the table like a silent warning. "Have you looked at the prices?" she asked, emphasizing each word with deliberate condescension. "We serve high-end dishes here that not everyone is used to." Jackie looked at her, not with anger, but simply disappointment. "I'll have the filet mignon Rossini," he replied crisply. Calm, precise, without hesitation. Anna froze for a split second. She hadn't expected Jackie to order the most expensive dish on the menu, a dish even longtime elite patrons hesitated over. But then, she scoffed, her voice dripping with sarcasm. "Oh, that dish is $350. I hope you truly know how to enjoy it." She spoke loudly enough for nearby tables to hear. Several heads turned toward them. A few guests frowned. A young woman whispered to her friend, "She's so rude. He's just trying to have dinner." Anna wasn't finished. As she turned to walk away, she muttered one more line loud enough for the entire row to hear. "Orders the most expensive item and probably won't even want to see the bill later." Classic. Jackie remained seated, both hands gently resting on the table, his gaze following Anna as though he were reading every thought in her head. He said nothing, made no scene. But the atmosphere around him had begun to shift, not because Jackie raised his voice, but because people were starting to see his silence for what it was, a powerful form of resistance. Jackie sat quietly, composed amid curious, cautious, and sometimes pitying glances. He didn't pull out his phone, check his watch, or signal for service. He simply sat there, as if everything unfolding was part of a plan. Anna's sarcastic remarks hadn't shaken Jackie's composure. Instead, he leaned back in his chair, his gaze occasionally drifting toward the paintings on the wall, then resting on the shimmering chandelier above, completely unfazed by the whispers now beginning to ripple through the room. A young businessman in a crisp suit whispered to his companion at the nearby table, "Strange, being treated like that, and he's still remarkably calm." The companion replied, "He's definitely not just some ordinary guy." At the center table, Mr. Carter, an elderly man with silver hair and sharp eyes, raised his glass and murmured to his wife, "He's teaching us a lesson through silence." Meanwhile, Anna still hadn't let it go back to the service station. She muttered to a colleague, loudly enough for a few nearby diners to hear. Probably ordered the most expensive dish just to show off. Just wait. Once he sees the bill, he'll quietly slip away. Yet Jackie remained unmoved. When the food was served, he gave a polite nod of thanks to the secondary server, not Anna. He handled the knife and fork with such ease and refinement, as though he was no stranger to fine dining. No one expected a man in a gray t-shirt and worn-out sneakers to exude the demeanor of a statesman dining in one of the city's most exclusive establishments. His understated elegance, his silence that was anything but weakness, made Jackie stand out in a space that prized flash over substance. Gradually, the whispers in the restaurant transformed into quiet admiration. Not for wealth, but for a quiet strength that stood tall in the face of blatant prejudice. While Anna was still busy tending to the central tables with her signature noble charm and sweet-talking wine suggestions, the door to the management office quietly swung open. From it emerged Mr. Thompson, the senior manager of La Lumière, with a stern expression and an unusually hurried stride. His eyes swept across each dining table until they landed on the corner of the room, where Jackie was still quietly enjoying his filet mignon. Without hesitation, Mr. Thompson went to Jackie's table, his eyes filled with worry and respect. "Jackie, my God, we had no idea you were visiting tonight. Please accept my deepest apologies." As the words left his mouth, the entire restaurant seemed to freeze. The clinking of silverware, the whispers, the soft background music, all fell silent. Guests turned their heads in unison, eyes wide. Some began whispering, "Jackie? That's Jackie, one of the co-founders of Lumière?" Anna stood utterly still at the service counter, as if someone had turned her to stone. The tray in her hands trembled slightly. Her face turned pale, her eyes wide as she stared toward Jackie's table, as if truly seeing the man for the first time. "Jackie," she repeated internally, stunned. "No way." Mr. Thompson bowed slightly toward Jackie once more, his voice filled with remorse. "I sincerely apologize for the lack of respect shown to you. Our staff should have recognized you right away." Jackie smiled, his tone calm and composed. "It's all right. I just wanted to enjoy a meal like any regular customer." And that one simple sentence, gentle yet thunderous, turned the restaurant's silence into a moment of profound reckoning. No one had imagined that the man in a gray t-shirt and worn sneakers, seated near the kitchen, was one of the founding figures and key sponsors of the restaurant they were dining in. At the central table, Mr. Carter nodded, his voice thoughtful. "I knew there was something remarkable about that man." Meanwhile, Anna remained motionless, her head lowered, lips trembling. The confident guardian of elegance persona was gone. She insulted the very man who had defined the standards she claimed to uphold. The air inside La Lumière remained heavy with silence. Every gaze was fixed on Jackie. The man dismissed simply for not dressing in the proper attire expected of an upscale guest. Jackie gently placed his glass down on the table and stood up. His tall, composed figure stills the room. He didn't raise his voice. He wasn't angry, but when Jackie spoke, every word landed like a wake-up call. I don't need you to know who I am, to be treated with respect. That sentence wasn't just for Anna. It was for everyone in the room. Anna trembled, her fingers digging into the tray she held, head bowed, unable to lift her gaze. Jackie's words struck like knocks on the arrogant shell she had worn so confidently every day. Jackie turned his attention to the rest of the dining room. A fine dining restaurant is not built on leather chairs or crystal chandeliers, but on how we treat one another. He paused, his eyes scanning the faces of those who had looked away, who had stayed silent when Anna belittled him. I've been to many places. I know what it feels like to be judged by appearances alone. But what I hope for most in a place like La Lumière isn't expensive wine. It's kindness. Some diners lowered their heads, ashamed for having remained silent. Mr. Carter nodded slowly, his eyes never leaving Jackie. He doesn't need authority to speak, just integrity and courage. Jackie turned to face Anna, now on the verge of tears, her face wet and trembling. I'm not angry with you, but you need to understand. Respect is not a privilege reserved for the wealthy. It's a basic human right, something everyone deserves. He continued, his voice calm but resolute. I didn't come here tonight to test the staff. I came to have dinner, like any ordinary person. And it is precisely that choice which reveals who truly understands La Lumière's philosophy and who does not. The restaurant remained silent, but this time it was the silence of awakening. A weighty, reflective atmosphere settled over every table. Jackie ended with one final sentence, soft yet profoundly stirring. Respect isn't something reserved for the powerful. It's something owed to everyone, if we truly consider ourselves human. And with those words, a light was lit, not above the crystal tables, but in the hearts of everyone present that evening. Dinner ended in silence. Jackie didn't ask for dessert, nor did he want more wine. He stood up, shook hands with Manager Thompson, and said softly, I'd like to meet with the entire staff after the restaurant closes. Mr. Thompson nodded, fully aware that this was a more critical moment than any internal inspection in his career as a manager. Late at night, La Lumière gradually emptied of its guests. The warm ambient lights were dimmed. Servers, chefs, receptionists, all gathered in the restaurant's main dining area. They formed a circle, with Jackie standing at the center. He didn't raise his voice or impose authority, but something about his presence made everyone quietly attentive. Mr. Thompson stood beside him, his face serious, but his eyes full of respect. Jackie began, I know anyone can make mistakes. We're human, but a mistake only becomes a disaster if we don't learn to correct it. Several people lowered their heads. Silence filled the room, broken only by Jackie's calm voice guiding the atmosphere. I didn't come here to get anyone fired. I came to remind you that to work in service is to work with kindness, to see people, not credit cards. Jackie paused, his gaze shifting toward the far end of the circle, where Anna stood motionless, hands clenched tightly, her face pale, and tears streaming down without her even noticing. He didn't name names, but everyone knew who he was addressing. I've lived in some of the poorest neighborhoods in America. I've been denied service, pushed away, simply because I didn't look important. So today, I'm not here to be angry. I'm here to teach, with forgiveness and the belief that people can change. There was a long pause. Then Jackie spoke gently. Anna. She looked up, eyes swollen red, voice hoarse. I'm sorry. I was wrong. I let my bias blind me. I don't deserve to stand here. Jackie took a quiet step toward her. No reprimand, no humiliation. Worthiness isn't in the apology. It's in what you do next. Are you willing to change? Anna nodded, breaking down into sobs. I want to. I really do. Jackie nodded slightly, then turned to the rest of the staff. And I want all of us to change together. Let's not allow a worn-out coat or a faded pair of shoes determine how we treat another human being. Mr. Thompson stepped forward, his voice firm. Starting tomorrow, the entire staff will undergo retraining, not just in service skills, but in compassion. A small round of applause began, led by Jake, the young waiter who had witnessed the entire incident. Gradually, others joined in, not because Jackie was someone famous, but because he had rekindled something good they had forgotten. The next morning, the atmosphere at La Lumière was utterly different. Everyone arrived earlier than usual. No one joked, no one complained. Everyone carried a sense of seriousness, not heavy, but awakened. Manager Thompson stood at the center of the small meeting room. Behind him, a whiteboard read, "Rebooting service culture. Respect is priority number 1. Anna walked in, her face tired from a sleepless night, but her eyes clearer than ever. She didn't sit in the back this time, but chose the seat closest to the board. Thompson began the meeting. We shouldn't have to wait for a special guest to learn a lesson in human dignity. Yesterday, Jackie taught us that respect should never be optional. It must be automatic for everyone. He turned toward the staff, his gaze warm. From today on, we're going to relearn, not just how to serve a dish, but how to see a person. Anna was the first to raise her hand. Her voice trembled slightly, but was full of determination. I want to start over. Not just with the guests, but with myself. I've lived too long with arrogance and judgment. But yesterday, Jackie didn't humiliate me. He gave me a chance to make it right. And I don't want to waste that. The room was silent. Then a single round of applause rang out, from Jake, then a second, a third. Gradually, everyone stood and applauded Anna's courage, and, in a way, their own, people learning to grow up. In the days that followed, La Lumière was reborn. The condescending glances disappeared. Greetings became more genuine. Staff began helping each other instead of competing in silence. They learned to listen instead of serve. One afternoon, when Jackie quietly returned, unannounced, this time, no one raised an eyebrow or looked at him with doubt. The person who greeted him was none other than Anna. She bowed slightly, her smile sincere. Welcome back, Jackie. This time, I'll get it right. Jackie smiled gently, saying nothing more, because the way Anna welcomed him was the most straightforward answer. Late that night, Jackie left La Lumière. There was no rain, but the streetlight's glow reflected on the damp pavement seemed to soothe the heavy air after a long day. He strolled along the quiet streets of Beverly Hills, his simple hoodie fluttering gently in the night breeze. In Jackie's mind, no more echoes of mocking words, judgmental stares, or the tense silences he had endured. Only one thing remained: change. He thought of Anna, the one who had been wrong but brave enough to face it. He thought of Jake, the young man who had quietly held onto his conscience amid pressure. He thought of the diners, once indifferent, who realized they also needed to speak up. And he thought of himself, a man who had spent his life in the spotlight, but chose silence to deliver a lesson in kindness. Kindness doesn't need to be loud, but it can change the entire room. He smiled and whispered to himself. A few days later, La Lumière officially launched its new Respect First policy. Its content was posted on a board at the entrance. Every guest, regardless of attire, status, or background, deserves the best service from us, with heart and with humility. Anna stood before the staff at the launch of the new code. She didn't shy away from recalling her mistake, but she spoke in a clear voice. No one is born perfect, but everyone can learn to be kinder. I know I've hurt someone, and I'll spend the rest of my career making it right. The local news ran a segment on La Lumière's story, calling it a cultural moment worth remembering, when a sports legend used calm dignity to challenge an entrenched, biased service system. In a brief recorded interview afterwards, Jackie looked straight into the camera, his gaze as composed as ever. When asked what kept him from getting angry after such public disrespect, Jackie replied, "Because I don't want to teach anyone with yelling. I want to teach them with the kindness they've never been shown." In the end, La Lumière didn't just maintain its reputation. It became a symbol of humility and moral resilience, all thanks to a guest who walked in wearing an old hoodie, worn-out shoes, and an unshakable heart.